EliotsGraphics here, and today we'll be creating a colorful text tutorial in Adobe Photoshop CS6. Alright, so this is the end result you can see right here. Looks pretty nice. Now we want to create a new canvas that is 1920 by 1080 in pixels. Now set the background contents to background color and make sure the background color is set to black. Now you can hit OK. Now we want to create a new text layer, and for me what I think looks the best is Bauhaus 93 as the font. Make sure that's selected as 72 points and make sure the color is white. Now you can type whatever you want here. Oh, that was a big fail. I'll type my first name. Now we want to grab that layer and drop it on the new layer icon to duplicate it. Now on the duplicated layer we want to right click and hit rasterize type. That will make it so we can put brushes and all that fancy stuff over it. Now we want to double click that layer, and you want to hit Satan. You want to change the opacity to 100%. Let me see here. Change the angle to 143 degrees, the distance to 3 pixels, and 3 pixels for the size too. Now we want to hit bevel and emboss, and for the structure we'll set the size to 250 pixels, soften to 7 pixels, the highlight mode now, or the shading box, the angle will set that to 132 degrees, the altitude to 26 degrees, and the highlight mode to normal, and same for the shadow mode. Now for the highlight mode we want to set the opacity to 84%, and the opacity for the shadow mode should be around 27%. Now for the color for the highlight mode, we want to use a certain color. I'm going to make this a purple pink. You can make it whatever you want, but I think it's best to use the default colors that we're using first, so you can see how it affects the final image. Now you can use the color code below to get the exact same one that I am, and the color code I'll be using is 9A1A82. For the shadow mode color, I'll be using C5D F27. Hit OK. That's all good. Doesn't look too bad. Now we want to add background colors to this whole thing, and we want to create a new layer below all this. Also, what's going to help out a lot is if you use swatches, and basically it saves color selections so you can use them later on, and because we're using 4 colors mostly the whole time, this is gonna be a really big deal. So to set a new swatch, you're gonna click the foreground color picker, and you're going to type in the color code. I'll put these in the description. The pink we'll be using is FF00FC, then hit OK, and then hit the new layer looking button, and that will create the new swatch, and hit OK. Now you can see I have all 4 right here, so I'll just put that in the description, the color code for all those. Alright, so now you want to get out the brush tool, and let's set the diameter to around 160 pixels, and make sure it's the first brush, the soft one. Now you want to bring out the pen tool and make sure the new layer is selected below the text, and you want to create a diagonal line that is parallel to the highlight mode color on the text. Alright, it's not too bad. Now we want to go to Window, Paths, and that will show us the Paths option. And on the work path, you want to right click and hit stroke path. Now make sure the brush tool is selected and the simulate pressure is selected too. Hit OK. That's looking pretty good. Now you can move this around if you want. To make this easier on us, we're just going to duplicate it. So drag and drop this on the new layer and move it over here. Make sure the bottom of the streaks of light are aligned. And then on the layer 1 copy, we want to double click that and go to color overlay. Now for that color, I'll be picking the blue that's in my swatch panel. Hit OK and OK. Move this a bit over here. Now I want to duplicate that layer and bring it over to the right again. Double click that layer and change the color overlay to the green that should be in your swatch panel. Duplicate that layer, move it over. That will be changed to the yellow in your swatch panel. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Now I can see it's a little bit high, so first we want to select all these layers. You can do that by selecting one of them, holding Control and selecting another, another, and another. You should have 4 of them selected. Right click and you want to hit merge layers. So now we have one layer. We want to move this down a bit. That looks really good. Alright. Now you can edit that around and it looks a bit bright, but we can fix that by adding a filter. I want to click on the filter button on the top of your screen with that layer selected and click on or hold blur and click on Gaussian blur. Now we want to change the radius to around, let's try this out. It's a bit much. 66.4 should be perfect for the radius. Hit OK. Now we want to change the opacity of this layer to 33%. That looks really good. And in the paths option, we can just delete this because we really don't need that anymore. That we made with the pen tool. Alright, so now we have these 2 layers and they look pretty good. Now we want to create a work path on the text layer, so you right click, click create work path, and we want to click on the make selection and OK with the pen tool. Now we want to hit Control E on our keyboard and it'll expand the selection and change that to 2 pixels and hit OK. Now we want to hit select, deselect. Now for the text layer we want to hit filter, Gaussian blur. Whoops, that's a bit much. Filter, blur, Gaussian blur. It'll ask to rasterize the layer and hit OK. We're going to change this to 5 pixels. Hit OK. Now that's added a nice little glow in the back. Looks very, very good. And now we're going to fill in colors. And now make sure the brush tool is still at 160 pixels, and it's a very soft one. Now we want to start off by making sure this pink purple is still the same one used in the background. And we want to select on the white layer, so make sure that's selected, and you want to look on this little palette right here with the lock. You want to lock transparent pixels. Click on that. That will make it so we can only adjust the color of the pixels that are non-transparent, and you just want to match the background color pretty much. So do this little thing with your mouse so it's diagonal. Now we want to select the blue. Looks very good. Now do that for the green and yellow. Alright, so that's done. That looks really good. Very nice. Now this is when we add the special effects, and we're going to want to click on a new layer. Make sure it's below all the other layers. And you want to set your foreground color on the color picker to white. Open the brush tool. Now we're going to be using a custom brush, and I'll be putting it in the description of the 3 brush packs you need or should use. Now when you have this big box here, you can adjust the size like this. I prefer to make it pretty wide. Now you'll see the brushes because the ID on them will be in the 1600s and the 1500s. So you want to use these 5. So to use this, obviously it's really big. So we want to adjust the size to around 100 to 200 pixels, or even a bit more. And you want to change the rotation. So basically you want to add light streaks to this. And you'll be changing the color so it won't look unnatural. I'm thinking, usually you want to do it for the corners. You want to do different brushes. That looks pretty cool. And hit Control Z if you want to undo. This is really just guess and check and see what you like the most. And the center of the brush doesn't have to be in the side of it. You can put part of the center of the brush in under the letter, so that way you get those cool tips of streaks on the end of the letter. Alright, now you want to do that for every single one, and I'll pause the video here for every letter that is. Alright, I'm back, and this looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the end result of that. Now we want to click on the lock button for the lock transparent pixels for that layer, and we want to change the brush to the soft round. Change the size to 160 pixels. And now we want to do the color streaks that we did earlier with the blur layer, but on the color streaks. So change this color to purple, and this should really only take 2 seconds. And don't be afraid to overlap. You can change this at any time. Now for the green. This makes it really fit in better, so looks all good. For the yellow. Alright, that looks nice. So now we've got that done, and we want to add a glow to the brush design so the colors don't look the same completely. You'll see what I mean. So now we want to double click on that layer, and you want to hit outer glow. It's on the bottom. Change the color to white, and change the blending mode to color dodge. Change the opacity to 100, and the spread to 4%. Whoops. Spread of the elements to 4%, and the size to 7%, 7 pixels. Quality, we can change this to 37%. Alright, that looks pretty good. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now we want make sure you download the Real Smoke Photoshop brushes, and now go to the brush table. Make sure the brush tool open. You want to find a brush that should be at 675. That should be the code in that diameter. Alright, I found a lot of them, and you want to select the the third one, sampled brush 7 right here. Shouldn't look much different. Oh, and we want to change this so it's horizontal. So, alright, no. Yeah, mess around with that. Change the size of it a bit more. It looks pretty cool. We want to change the foreground color to white though. Now we want to grab the soft round brush and make sure the transparent pixels are locked again. Change this to 160, and you want to do the colors again. So it is pretty important to keep those swatches because you have to use it quite a few times. Alright, sweet, that looks pretty cool. Alright, I like that a lot. You obviously can change whatever you want on here. If you think it's too small, you can grab the bottom layer and the top layer, uh, and hit shift, and then hit edit, transform, scale. This way you can make it bigger. And it actually might look better if we have it bigger like this. Make sure that's centered like that. And one more thing, you can make this look better by duplicating the bevel and emboss layer, putting the duplicate layer below that, double clicking, getting rid of the bevel and emboss and Satan, put a color overlay of white, and hiding the bevel and emboss layer, and that looks pretty good too. I actually might favor that more. You can also make that look more smooth by putting a Gaussian blur of about 5 pixels, and that looks pretty nice. So, I mean, do whatever you want with that. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Thanks for watching, and leave a comment below if you need some help. Thanks, have a good day.